there's probably something I could do to make something much more. There's a kink in the chain. Maybe I can do something about it, right? Maybe I should take on the responsibility of doing something about it. Maybe my job should be less worrying about the prep list and more worrying about how I can organize the kitchen better so that they can do more on their prep lists and I can do less. And
maybe I should go back to my times with Bobby Flay's restaurants where they took the time to teach me, coach me up so I can do the thing. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's how I started changing my ethos in the kitchen.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro.
With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, chef, partner of Heirloom Restaurant Group, Chef David Viana. Chef, are you feeling unstoppable today?
I'm feeling mighty unstoppable.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm psyched. You came in my inbox, your name. I read the bio, and I said, I gotta get these folks on the show. What you're doing here really resonates with the Restaurant Unstoppable mission, man. To just challenge the status quo. And to try to grow every day and try really to challenge the business model, right? So you're doing that. I can't wait to unpackage how you got to where you are today and how you're making an impact here in your community and in your staff. But let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
I kind of live by under promise, over deliver,
Under promise, over deliver. Why is that your mantra?
Working in the restaurant business, a lot of people come in for stages and you never wanted to be that one guy that talked about his hyped himself up, talked about what he was able to do, who he worked for, and then you saw him behind the stove and he just didn't deliver. And then there would be those people that didn't say a word and let their cooking do the talking and just like delivered on all the things and in one moment. And I'm not going to be that guy that talks himself up only to disappoint people. I want to be that guy that comes, you never see him coming, and then he just proves it with what he does and what he's able to produce and how capable he can be.
I love that, man. I really do. And it makes me think too, this idea, I think when you promise the world to people and you have great, audacious goals, when you promise the world to people, sometimes you can fall short of those goals. So if you kind of stay conservative and be careful about what you promise, but have the expectation to be great.
Yes.
It's when you blow those expectations out of the water that makes you stand out.
It's a more powerful impact. Yeah. You're actually mitigating expectation with every intention of superseding it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna blow you away, and that's my intention. But even if you talk it up, if you're too good of a talker, no matter how good you are, you still might let them down, right? Which is a bad way to end the interaction, right?
Ironically, too, I think that's where a lot of con artists get their name. And I don't think they intend to be. Some people are flat out con artists, right?
Yeah.
They're manipulating you. Other people, I think, get labeled as con artists because they believe they have the intention to do great things. They make promises, and then you buy into it because they sell it well, the vision, and then they fall short. But they have your money because you invested. And you're a con artist. I think it's important to be careful about what you promise because you don't want to become an accidental con artist.
Correct.
This is a great way to get this thing started, man. I'm really enjoying the conversation straight out the gate. But where does it make sense to start sharing your story, man? Like, take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, man. I grew up son of an immigrant family, so like the food and the table was a very important thing in my culture. And I'm Portuguese, and Sunday dinners in my grandmother's basement with the whole family got together. It kind of like that had a long lasting impression on me that I didn't necessarily realize in the moment. But I definitely have a passion and a romanticism about food and the way it brought my family together constantly. 15, I washed dishes all through high school. And then in college, I worked in restaurants all through college, never actually considering it a profession. And then I got a job as a probation officer, Union County Probations, and wanted to be a lawyer. I got accepted to law school, and then realized after about 6 months in probation and being in the court system up front and up close and personal, I was like, this is soul-sucking.
What was soul-sucking about it?
The corruption, just like the way it was run, the defeatism. I thought I was going to be making more of an impact and helping people, and I just like it really wears you down. How nobody else does want to make a difference. Like, that's not why people are in their positions. That's not what the roles are for, and it just really felt like I was in the wrong place, and I was not going to make the impact I wanted to, and I just like I need to do something else in my life.
So how long were you going? You said 6 months before?
Yep, 6 months. It's all it took. It's all it took.
How many years did it take to get you to that point where you could even be in that position to walk away from it?
No, I mean, it was my first job out of college. So I graduated Seton Hall and got a job in probations, and I was going to go to Seton Hall Law and I was going to do that during night school while I was working.
So you never got your law degree? You never,
No.
Okay, but working in the
Court system.
Kind of gave you a preview of what you're signing up for.
Correct.
Got it. So 6 months in, you decide, this isn't for me. Do you have any clue what's next?
I mean, the only thing I was left with is this enjoyment of, or how I spent my time in the restaurants during college, right? So I worked in restaurants on weekends. I worked in catering companies. I did all different aspects of the industry. I knew didn't pay well, and I knew that the hours sucked, but I enjoyed my time in the kitchen. I enjoyed my day.
What did you enjoy about it?
Camaraderie. I like getting, knowing that you did something well or did something poorly within seconds, like that, like constant knowing how you're doing by whether or not the chef is yelling at you or whether or not something is, like, there's a constant gratification of your day. There's always like a pat on the back to be had, or a pat on the head, whatever it is, like hypothetically, or
the cookie, right?
Yeah, cookie, right? So like that instant gratification kind of model, it was enjoyable for me.
I mean, for me, that's exactly what it is too, man. It's just this idea that it's instant gratification, that you're doing a job well. And also, if you know that if you're not doing it well,
you're going to know that right away.
Yeah, and there's also an opportunity to make it. You can always write the end of the story, like Danny Meyer says. Like,
correct.
Just because the first impression wasn't that great doesn't mean that's the end of the story. So you can, in the moment, turn it around. You have so much control over.
And there's always tomorrow. Like, we have a bad service. Like, you get an opportunity tomorrow. Well, tomorrow will be better. Like, we're going to learn from this. We're going to be better. Like, there's always an opportunity. Tomorrow's a new day. There's always going to be another group of people coming in. And
at this point, did you know you had a natural talent for cooking? Did anybody see that in you? Because when you were working in restaurants, were you back of house? I'm assuming back.
Yeah, I was all back of house. Yeah. And I wasn't necessarily. I was superstitious. I was superstitious. Yeah. So that in itself lent itself to cooking. So if I did something right, I wanted the same corner of the stove, the same pan, the same like. I was superstitious, and those kind of attention to detail kind of thing kind of made me good. Like maybe more so than people. I didn't know why I was doing it. I didn't know about surface area and constant heat. And there's so many things that were actually happening that I didn't know about, but I just knew that if I use this pan and use that part of the stove, and it always came out. I saw patterns, yeah. Right? And I was superstitious. So I'm going to do that exactly the same way. And that worked for me for a really long time.
So at what point are you thinking to yourself, maybe there's a career in this for me? How long did that take?
I think the most powerful thing in life is when you kind of put your 100% energy into one thing. It's not so much what you choose, it's the choice of committing, right? And I think once I went from, I had this whole plan of being a lawyer and working, I had the whole life mapped out. And I thought once I realized it wasn't making me happy, I was like, I'm going to go all in on cooking. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know what my life is going to look like if I do this, because I knew, being a celebrity chef or anything like that is like one in a million. Like, it's not what people do. So I was like, but I knew that I wanted to commit 100%, and I wanted to do something with all my heart and soul. So I think that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, man. I actually had somebody on the show to talk specifically about the power of one and the whole idea of one thing and putting all of your energy into one thing. Think of it as like a magnifying glass, right? When you focus that energy into one spot, you can make a much bigger burn mark. Yeah. And that's what's happening when you're getting intentional with your life. You're taking all this energy that you have and you're pointing it at knocking down an obstacle.
100.
Right? So once you made this commitment to this is my one thing, what was this? I mean, was it a broader one thing? Was it just cooking in general, or did you have a specific niche in cooking you wanted?
No, it was cooking in general, and I wanted to be the best at it. So like I was in culinary school in 2002. So that would, like, Bobby Flay was just on Boy Meets Grill on the Food Network, and those things were starting to happen. So I was like, I want to work for Bobby Flay. Like this is the way we go. So I got a job at Mesa Grill, and from there, I hopped around and worked at, for Michael White and Burrell, 11 Madison Park. I just kept kind of searching out the more high end fine dining. If I was gonna do it, I wanted to do it in the best environments.
Is that the White? That's not the same White Heat White, is it?
No, that's Marco Pierre White.
Marco Pierre White, right?
No.
Sorry.
Michael White is Maria, Osteria Marini.
That's right.
Yeah, Afier.
So, I mean, I could also point out that what you did is exactly what I would tell anybody to do. Like, go work for the best. You are the average of those you surround yourself with. And what made you go to culinary school first, though? I'm curious about that. Why did you think that was the right path? After already going through school, I'm imagining you're already in debt at this point.
Yeah.
So what was going through your mind?
I finally made my last student loan payment last year. Yeah,
dude.
that's
great.
a big thing.
How old are you in 2002?
I was 22.
Okay. So like fresh out of college,
Fresh
like a year out of college.
Yeah,
basically.
I was 6 months in one thing, and then like, nope, I instantly pivoted. I went to ICE, and they had a culinary program. I wanted to know the vocabulary. I didn't want to feel so much like a fish out of water, and also I didn't know, much about food and the industry. Like, what were the best restaurants? Like, oh, there's a Zagat guide. Like, I didn't know that. I worked in kitchens. I worked in restaurants, but I didn't work in fine dining restaurants, right? So I wanted to get an idea of the vocabulary, and I knew that I didn't want to do the whole program. I just got a certificate in culinary. Like, it was like a 1 to 8 months to a 1 year program, something like that. I don't remember exactly.
Got it.
And I just wanted to get some verbiage. I knew that I wasn't going to learn how to be a chef in 1 year.
A crash
You know what I mean?
course.
I was like, I want a crash course
the big picture,
in the big
language,
picture.
yeah,
Correct.
the culture of
So I
kitchen.
wouldn't feel like a fish out of water
Got it.
too much. I
Smart.
at least kind of navigate
Also,
it.
was it a community school? Community college?
ICE, no, it's like it's some of those things you see on the commercials on Food Network. It's like it's in the World Trade Center in New York.
Got it. So when you left this experience, how did you leave feeling?
Culinary school?
Yeah.
Excited to get started.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like ready to get started.
And you said it was the TV that got you hooked on Bobby Flay, right?
Yeah.
But how'd you get your foot in that door? I feel like at this point in your career, at this point in his career, there must have been a line to get to go work for him.
No, so I like knocked on the back door, and I was like, oh, I'm willing to work. And I was like, can I trail? Can I stage? Can I do whatever? And then they said, sure, come in. And I worked a day, and I was like, can I stay? Can I get a job? Like, well, we're not hiring right now. I was like, I'll come in tomorrow for free. I'll come in for free until you let me stay. They're like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll come in for free until you let me stay. So I worked a week, and then he hired me.
But you won't work more than a month before they just tell you that it's not going to work out because you're not a right culture fit, or somebody leaves and there's a job opening.
Exactly.
And this is such a common storyline in my interviews, is just show up. That's half the battle, is just showing up. And like I said, eventually that opportunity. And if you're a good fit, people in this industry know to hang on to good people if they're a right match. Like, they don't let good people go.
I know that now. Yeah. I didn't know that then.
Yeah.
I know that now. Like, if you come in with the right attitude and you're competent and you fit in with the culture and you make an attempt to fit in with the culture, that's all it really takes.
Give us a little more guidance on that. If somebody's listening to this and maybe they're at this point in their career where you're at, and they want to approach a restaurant, how do you walk that line of like not like being disrespectful, like I'm not leaving, like how do you balance that?
Yeah, persistence is nice, but it can't be. Don't come off too strong. You just have a little bit of like persistence, but humbleness to you as well. I think it's all about being part of the culture, right? So if you come on too strong and too willful, too forceful, you might be exactly what they're not looking for. Right. So just read the temperature of the room and just the gentle. There's a thing that Danny Meyer says, like gentle, constant pressure.
Constant, gentle pressure.
Yeah. So take that approach with wanting a job. Constant, gentle pressure. You can't come on too strong, but you have to show that you're willing to be constant and you're not going to
respect boundaries
and things like that. So that's be the approach. Constant, gentle pressure about wanting something really badly.
Because there are situations where, like, especially if it's a stage, like that restaurateur, that chef built a culture and they have a way of doing things. You can't just go in, grabbing the bull by the horns and trying to run the kitchen. You're very much observing early on, right? So finding that balance, but knowing, but communicating through your persistence that you want something more, right?
Yeah.
And also I think graciousness.
Graciousness. Yeah,
man,
huge. It's
being
huge.
Grateful goes a long way. People can tell when you're grateful.
And honestly, like manners. Some young people don't have manners anymore. It's really like, I mean, not that I care, but it's like some people just don't have manners. I feel bad for them. I'm like, I don't mind. You can be rude to me and it's fine, but like, you're not going to get far in life if you don't say please and thank you. Like, there's like little things that like other people get way more offended than I do. I'm like, they just don't have, and I don't blame them. They weren't they never got taught, you know,
Right.
or something. Like, it's not intentional, I don't think.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the storyline too. Is like, listen, it's our responsibility as mentors, as leaders, to give people these skills.
Yeah.
We hire young people in this industry,
Yep.
and not everybody came from the same privilege of whether or not they were given those
Key skills.
Those skills, exactly, right? So, I gotta ask, man, what was it like working for Bobby? Was it everything you dreamed?
It was really great, actually. It was one of the best kitchen cultures. To this day, I almost like it was almost a mistake going there first, because like I thought every restaurant kitchen was going to be this cool and this fun and this, like, he had a really great CDC, Neil, who is like super inspiring and, like, again, not a screamer, not a yeller. We would meet up in the park on Saturdays before our shift and play soccer as a kitchen staff. Like, there were a lot of really, really cool things that kitchen had, and a lot of great qualities that I took for granted, having it been my first job.
So there was a sense of camaraderie,
Yeah,
of
great
coming
sense of
together. But what do you think Bobby did to develop this culture? What are the things that you try to mimic to try to recreate what he had then?
Well, it starts with leadership. So he had wanted to make a willful choice to have that culture, right? And then Neil, his CDC, again, was in the same mold, again, with wanting to have good culture. It starts with setting proper expectations, teaching more, yelling less. It's taking ownership as a leader for the miscues of your staff, and finding a different message or a different way to deliver the message so that they can finally get it. You know, having a little more patience than the next person. It's little addition of a lot of little details that create good culture. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Which element of the culture do you think was most impactful?
I think the patience and the teaching aspect. You know, I was young. It was my first job, so I knew that I wasn't doing certain things right, but they were like, well, you're not paying attention to this detail. You're not paying that. And I thought that they communicated what they wanted really well.
Give me an example of how they would communicate something.
So, like, I was fresh out of this one. I guess this is a vivid one in my mind. I'm on the saute station, and he would walk over to me. He's like, that knob underneath the stove right there. You see that knob? It's not a light switch, right? It's not just max or off. It's got degrees on it, and it's useful to not constantly hammer everything you put in the pan. Like, the cooking isn't black and white. It's not that easy. So, like, use the dial. Like, it's not everything requires maximum heat. Not everything is just that or off, right? So it was like a lesson, like, oh man, that makes so much sense. Like use the degrees, like use the knob. It's a purposeful thing. It's not an on and off switch.
It's patterns.
Right? Yeah, I'm like, this makes so much sense. But like, just, because he was saying, no, slow it down. I wasn't understanding what he meant by slow it down. He meant reduce the heat.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting it. And eventually he's like, there's a knob, right? Do you know why there's a knob? Because it's not supposed to just be one way or the other. Like, use the degrees and things. Lower the heat. Take more time. Life doesn't, like, things are more patient.
But it sounds like the big part is he didn't, like, attack you.
No, correct.
Like,
correct.
he wasn't.
And
like,
he found a different way to communicate. He was trying to communicate it that I wasn't understanding the communication. And a lot of people get upset after that. Like, they'll just go right to get off the line, or they'll start yelling, and then you shut down a little bit. He was saying the same thing, but he didn't realize that I wasn't understanding how he was trying to communicate the same thing. So he found another way to kind of visualize it for me. He's like, look, it's a knob.
Yeah.
It's not an on and off switch. Like, and that visualization of picturing a knob versus an on and off switch totally put into perspective what he was trying to say and how he was trying to communicate.
Awesome example, man. Thank you very much. So,
Yeah.
How long were you with Bobby?
It was about a year.
Were you working directly under him, or was Bobby off?
Oh, Bobby
doing his
was
own
off
thing?
doing
Yeah.
a lot of things at the time. It was really Neil and and I was just a low man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
Started in Garde Manger, got to saute, and then I eventually left.
I know you just said it. You said it was about a year.
Yeah, about a year.
About a year. Why did you leave? What was the reason for leaving?
A friend of mine got a job. I think it was Asteria Marini was opening, or what was the next job? No, I went to 11 Madison Park. My friend got into 11 Madison Park, and he was like, big things are happening here. Gotta come.
Was this around the time Will Gardero was taking over?
Not yet. No,
Okay.
it was before. It was the very end of the Carrie Heffernan
Got it.
stage and then Jared came in to replace, and then it was like the one right
Because this would have been like 2003, 2004.
2004.
Got it.
Yeah.
So about 2 or 3 years before Will
Yes.
the new chef.
Daniel Hum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always afraid I'm saying that name. Right. But amazing things that they're doing over there. But
he's an inspiration. Kadera is an inspiration.
Yeah, their book was incredible. I don't know if you had a chance to pick that
I
one
did.
up yet.
Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about that one later. But I mean, I guess what I'm really curious about, because I don't want to spend too much time in the early part of your life, right? But you were at 11 Madison Park for a period.
Mm-hmm.
You were with Anthony Boku for a period. Michael White we mentioned. It wasn't until 2016 that you became a partner here at Heritage.
Yeah.
Or not Heritage, Heirloom. Thank you. What, reflecting back at that 2004 to 2016 12-year period, just take us on stops where you think you grew the most, where you were handed the most responsibility, where you had to evolve as a professional. Where were those stops for you?
I think most of the stops were mistakes. I think you learn more from one mistake than you do 10 successes. That's kind of like the ratio I've got in my head as far as like
Sounds about right.
teaching moments. At one point I tried to open up my own business. That I partnered with someone who kind of stole money from me, and then that went to court, and that was like a huge like blow up in my life.
Where was this on the timeline?
This was 2010.
So still 6 years before your partner
Yep.
here at Heirloom.
And that was like a really big moment because like at that point I felt like I've never really failed in my life. Like I made mistakes, but I was always doing something that I thought was like building towards something. And then when you invest your money and your parents' money, like, well, it was my parents' money, it wasn't mine. I didn't have any. I was paying student loans and making a salary from working in the kitchen. I didn't have any, so I borrowed money from my parents, and that put me in a depression kind of thing. So,
Were there any other mistakes you made before this?
No, I think like even, okay, maybe I went into a job I didn't like so much, but I think it's really important, all right, to not pick and choose too discerningly your next career choice, especially when you're young, because I think it's important to know what you don't want as well. Mm-hmm. And it, like, you know, spending a year in a kitchen, even a one that you don't particularly like, but you'll learn exactly why you don't like it and what to avoid when you become a chef. So not every job has to be a perfect stepping stone to the next job, to the next perfect job.
And there's not just one way to do it.
Totally.
There's a million different ways to do it. And the chef you might be working for, the restaurateur you might be working for, might be doing it that certain way because that's the way that works best for them. With their strengths, with their weaknesses, with their values, with their goals. You got to give yourself that perspective. You got to get out from underneath certain umbrellas to see the bigger picture sometimes. And what makes sense for you and the way you exist on this planet. So 100% I absolutely agree with that. So before opening in 2010, your first attempt at a restaurant, what experiences made you think you were ready? Like, where did you get to that point where you're like, I have nothing else to learn. Like, I'm going to open my own place.
I had done a 6-month stage in Portugal at a 2-star Michelin restaurant. It's called Villa Joya, and I had come back, and it was a free stage. I didn't get paid, but I thought I was going to be collecting unemployment when I was gone because I had applied for it, but it never went through. So when I got back, I didn't have any money, and I had a lot of bills that were like long past due. So I started working in New Jersey because I could get a little bit more money, and I couldn't afford to travel into the city at that point.
What year is it when you came back?
2008.
Okay, so 2 years before opening your own
2 years before opening my own place, and I ended up in Montclair, New Jersey, and I found a job that paid really well. The most money I'd been making at the time, a lot of it was cash.
It's always nice.
Yeah. Especially when you have debt, you know?
Exactly.
So I was kind of making up for it, and now it felt like a bigger fish in a smaller pond compared to everything I had done up until that point. I'd been working in New York City. I'd done this 2-star Michelin trail in Europe, and this need for money put me to get a job that I needed to choose money over the quality of the place. But I took a job as a sous chef in this restaurant in Montclair, and I realized I was so much better than everyone. The chef wanted me to be the chef at the place. And, you know, I politely declined. And then it was in that restaurant that I met the guy that I partnered with to open up. He had another space. He's like, you should really make your own restaurant. I was kind of reading my own clippings sort of at them. I had gone from all these really feeling like a little fish in a big pond, and then now feeling like a big fish in a little pond, and I was kind of let that get to my head a little bit. Like, all right, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready now. Like, this is it. This is the time. The guy found this
strike
space
while the iron's hot.
Exactly.
I'm never gonna get another opportunity.
Yeah, this is the moment. So I kind of talked myself into it, and that again, that was what I learned. That people can be con artists. That people can use your own pride and ego against you, like giving you compliments, building you up just so that they can.
Yeah, and I'm not about dragging people's name through the mud, so we don't need to mention names or anything like that. But like, how did this person position it in a way that, knowing what you know now, would have been some red flags? So if something's happening like this to us, we can be like, whoa, what about ABC?
Well, these are now like more like personality traits. He was very much superficially focused. He was into compliments. He did little niceties, but he was also, I felt like could easily lie, and I caught him in a few lies that should be a really like a insignificant things to lie about. Is a really big tell for me now. Like, if you lie about I don't know what kind of car you drive, like that, why would you care? Why would I care what kind of car you drive?
Yeah.
Why would you lie about that? That's such an insignificant thing to lie about. We're grown adults. Like, I don't care what you drive. Like,
that is a huge red flag.
Yeah, like that's integrity.
Honestly.
There's like and there was little things like that, and I just kind of excused him away because I wanted so badly to be the head chef, like have my own restaurant.
Yeah,
I wanted so badly.
And you're not alone, man. That's what people do. They get the blinders on.
Yeah,
they're like, I have a chance to make it. Like, whatever it takes. They're like, there is no other option. And I think, like, that's a strength and a weakness for humans. Like, because it's like you mentioned earlier, what's your core focus? Your one thing, right? And our frontal lobe kicks into hyper mode, and we start knocking down obstacles and whatever it takes to get there. But sometimes we need to take a step back.
Yeah.
And say I'm 28 years old. Like, there'll be other opportunities. Like, is this the right fit?
Yeah.
So any other lessons as far as red flags, as far as maybe what the partnership agreement might have looked like, or financing?
No, I mean, I didn't really. It wasn't that crazy of a partnership agreement. It wasn't anything like that. He had lied on financial bank statements. He was a junior. He had his father's bank statements with his name on them.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. So those were all fake.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like a lot of things.
This
that
is
happened.
a con artist.
Yeah. No, it was straight up. And I gotta say, I've never been exposed to that level of deception. And he worked in, like I said, he was overly thoughtful. Like, he would never show up without a cup of coffee for someone else. He would, it was just like a lot of little niceties and a lot of overly dependence on the way he was perceived by everyone around him. Because I think he was so nervous about getting caught. And the people that did know that what wasn't on the surface wasn't real, he wanted to make sure more people thought the surface was real than the ones that didn't. So he's kind of very image focused, and that was another red flag for me.
So what was the partnership going to look like? You were obviously going to be back of house talent.
And he was going to be front of house. He was a general manager of the restaurant I was working at the time.
And was he talented at doing his job?
Yeah, like I said, niceties go a long way when you're being a front of house person. So I thought that just was his nature from being front of house oriented, right? But it was more of the opposite.
And was he a partner in this restaurant group? He said that you need to go do your own thing. Had he opened other restaurants in the past?
He had opened another restaurant in the past that wasn't successful, and he had blamed not being partnered with the right chef, and that I'm the right person, and he's been in this industry a lot longer than me, and that he knows that I'm the right person. Yeah, said all the things that massaged my ego perfectly.
So what was the restaurant?
It's going to be called Salute Day in Montclair.
So did it ever open?
It did open under him. We eventually, after 2 years of legal issues, he found someone to buy me out. I lost a little bit of money on the deal, but I feel like it was a valuable lesson that I learned and worth every penny.
What were the biggest lessons there? I mean, we already talked about the partnership, but
no, the ego, the uber confidence that sometimes you running through red lights and stop signs that life gives you, the feeling wanting something so bad that you were willing to blow past certain red flags and is a lesson to slow down. And
I give all my guests a warning before the interview starts. I'm like, we're going to talk about awkward stuff, and we get into partnerships and things like this. But I mean, is there any other specific detail, something one thing that you did aside from selecting the wrong partner, right? The intricacies of the business that now wasn't the right thing to do as far as anything like along those lines, specifics.
I probably was, I wouldn't recommend opening up a restaurant if you've never been a head chef before. And now that I've done it, I've opened up a few restaurants now.
Why is that?
I don't think I was properly ready for the crown. As a sous chef or as a second in command, I think you don't know the weight of the responsibilities, the weight of, when bills are due and the stresses of the actual monetary part of the job on top of the stresses of your prep list and the team. And there's a lot of ways to focus your energy. I think I did much better every time I started another project. The next project was much smoother than the project before that one.
So it's all the new responsibilities that you get as a leader.
Yes.
And what were those things? The things that you do great now.
Yes.
Reflecting back then that you probably could have been doing.
Correct.
Better. What were those things?
I think dealing with the weight of the pressure, right? I come in and I put all my feelings aside because I know how I come in and my mood, how that trickles to the rest of the team. Being self-aware. And I don't know if I would have the capacity to carry the weight of all the things and all the responsibilities that I do have now and still wear the smile on my face. I was much more reactionary, much more emotional. I don't know how I would have been. I would have been a monster.
Yeah. This is going back 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's a long time. 13 years ago.
13 years ago. So you were 22.
30 years old.
You were 22 in 2004. So you're 26 in the storyline at this point?
I was 24 in 2004.
24.
I was born in 1980, so it's always the same number as the year. It makes it easy.
So in 2010, right?
2010, I was 30 years old.
30 years old. And this is just around the time that for males, the frontal lobe just finishes fully developing. They say between 26 to 30 is when cool. the frontal lobe for a male fully develops. And that's where that emotional intelligence lives. And
gotcha.
The peak of emotional and social intelligence is self-awareness, is being aware of what is my energy right now? What am I bringing into this room? And knowing to take a breath and to shift your perspective in that moment, so you're not bringing the team down.
Correct.
You don't know this stuff until you get experience and you become self-aware of how your energy affects people.
And I don't think I had that maturity, whether I was developed enough to learn it or not. I didn't have it. I know I didn't have it, and I know I didn't have it after that because the next job I had, I was a line cook, and then when I finally got an opportunity to be a chef de cuisine for a guy named Zad, I was a yeller. I was not nice.
I would never guess that, dude. You have even from the moment I walked into this place, your demeanor has been so cool, calm, and collected.
I am, now. But it took a bunch of people walking out on you and having to deal with this constant stress of
Bring me to a moment where somebody walking out when your attitude fucked you over.
Yeah.
Bring me to one of those times.
No, I mean, not taking someone off their station and get the hell out of my kitchen. You suck right now. What? I just didn't have real leadership skills.
How'd that come back to bite you?
It was the stress of never having a full kitchen staff or complaining to someone one day that I was constantly training people on the station because someone else is leaving. And every time I plug one hole, another hole happens. And
how does it make you feel? Where were you emotionally during all this?
I was angry and annoyed, and someone told me he's well, wasn't that your fault? Aren't you kind of doing all the and I kind of started I changed my mantra. I listened and I was you're right. Well, how would I go about changing it? And so I do this Uber accountability thing. I started practicing what I called Uber accountability. Let's pretend that I had God-given powers to correct every single mistake that happens within the walls of my restaurant. How would I go about doing it? If I actually could, if everything was my fault, whether or not the hostess sat someone at the wrong table, if that was my fault, how could I prevent her from doing that again? Perhaps the seating chart is too complicated. Perhaps I should color code the seating chart. There's probably something I could do to make something much more. There's a kink in the chain. Maybe I can do something about it, right? Maybe I should take on the responsibility of doing something about it. Maybe my job should be less worrying about the prep list and more worrying about how I can organize the kitchen better so that they can do more on their prep lists and I can do less. And
maybe I should go back to my times with Bobby Flay's restaurants where they took the time to teach me, coach me up so I can do the things. right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's how I started changing my ethos in the kitchen. And what happened was I started keeping cooks for 2-3 years at a time, as opposed to having a revolving door in the back of the kitchen with people coming in and out. And when you start to teach people, when you keep continuity, your food can then develop. Your food can then grow. You can't grow if you're doing the same dish over and over again with a different person and teaching the one thing over and over again. But if they master something, now you can teach them a second thing. And if they master those two things, now I can teach you a third thing.
And eventually they're working every station in the restaurant,
Totally.
including server and chef.
So
we're going to get to that too.
It just becomes a thing where you add on more and more things to the plate.
I love that, man. So you this is where it sounds like you transform the most. You pivot
Yes.
the most as a professional, as a leader. What was different about the next time you opened a restaurant or you became or offered partnership in a restaurant? How was that different from the previous time? How did they even come to your table?
So I'll talk about really quick the promise of partnership. A lot of that's not fun. I think that it's really, you have to be really careful when you're offered partnership. It's you have to interview the source as much as they're interviewing you. They always make everybody who offered. I had offered partnership a couple of times, and I'll tell the story of my friend who got left the Meadowwood 2-star Michelin restaurant right when it became 3 stars. Got lured to New Jersey to spearhead a restaurant group. Got offered partnership and was there for 6 years. Created the fucking thing, and then as soon as he was ready to leave to do his own thing, go move back home to Milwaukee to open up his own.
Cut?
He's like, "Where's my cut?" They gave him a check for $2,000.
Damn.
And that's what he took less salary to get a partnership stake, and the company grew by 2 or 3 restaurants while he was there to do what he was doing, and he got a check for $2,000.
What didn't he do that he should have done?
You have to be really, really sure, right, that when you're offered partnership, that you know, because there's a lot of ways to hide money, and you have to vet the person who's offering you. It's more important than the offer is who is offering it to you.
So
is
not
this
the
person
that's talking to you, but where's the source?
Where's the source, right? Ultimately, I think now I don't do partnership deals. I do management deals. I want percentage of gross. I want percentage of what I'm bringing in the door.
Right.
If you give me 1%, give me 2%.
Yeah.
More so than a promise of a carrot at the end of the stick down the road when you leave that you'll get percentage of this or that. Restaurants don't make a huge amount of money, and you can show losses in lots of different ways. And it just like there's so many ways to screw somebody out of anything with that partnership.
So did this friend of yours actually own stake in the business, or was it the stake that he owned evaluated at that moment in time? And
they said that at that moment in time that this was the evaluation of the business, and that's what his portion is worth.
Was there writing anywhere that said that this is what? Because I mean,
and at the end of the day, what he would have to do is then he was moving to Milwaukee, so he would have to lawyer up, stay around, and fight for what he wanted. And even then, they can show losses in a lot of things. The restaurant was growing, the company was growing, so they were saying that the losses in the company from opening this restaurant negates any profits being had, and therefore the valuation is this.
So I mean, it's weird because I think we're moving into a world where you almost need partners to get the job done because
Just
the
be
world
careful
is
who you partner with.
Yeah.
It's really, really important.
So like it's good to have these types of conversations to recognize a good partnership opportunity and a bad partnership opportunity. And one thing that I do see that I do like is this mindset of I think Uptown Social is doing this in Charleston. And what they do is they basically, if you're a member of the team, they say, okay, this is the EBITDA of the business. It's worth $1 million. You want to buy in a percentage? It's 1 point. That's $10,000. If you want to be a partner, you got to give us $10,000, right? Is that math right? $1 million, 10,000? Yeah. $10,000. So that's how they literally sell points to their team, but now they own that equity. So here's the thing: you're eliminating people who aren't serious, and you're making it low enough that they can get in. Now they own equity, and they're doing profit sharing thereafter. So I think that's
really cool.
Yeah. So there's ways
really
to do
cool.
it well, but I think both sides have to be educated on what's a good deal, right? Or just don't be an asshole and offer somebody a shit deal.
Yeah,
that's the other variable. Take care of people. It's about creating opportunity for others.
Correct.
Sorry, this is your time to shine.
No, no, you're right. No, this is, when you asked me about partnerships, I was like, I was dangled that many times in my career, and I know the sob story of my friend, and I know that I felt like it was always like a carrot on a stick that they could screw me out of in the long run. And I was very leery of it. And not until I met the partner I'm with now that it made financial sense for me because I trusted them. I had, interviewed them as much as they interviewed me. I had a relationship. I was working for the company for 6 months before we had the conversation of partnership. I had known this person intimately as a work relationship for 6 months, and I was like, there was some equity there. Okay, I will partner with you. Yeah. I trust you. I've now worked with you for 6 months. Now this seems like an interesting prospect for me. Yeah. But it was like I had that gut feeling with this one person. I think that there's you have to have some sort of vetting process for whoever you're going to be a partner with, because it's a very important thing. Like, it's a relationship. It's important.
And I think this is one of the best ways to find partners is to go to work and go work for the best. Other people who are talented and passionate are going to also gravitate towards those people and develop your roots, develop your network. And this is where you meet your future business partners, is working shoulder to shoulder with them for somebody else. 100. Finding somebody who complements you and is strong where you're weak. And like you start
That's a wonderful truth. Like, find someone who's strong where you're weak is a wonderful philosophy. It's really what life is about, truly.
Yeah, man. So I'm sure this is all going to come out in the story, but so 2010, you fall on your face. You get 6 more years of becoming a better leader, turning down partnership opportunities, and then finally one that crosses your table looks good. So I know it was in 2016 you became a partner, but were you working with Heirloom before they offered you partnership?
I took the job in 2006. I didn't become a partner in 2006. I took the job as a head chef.
So 2018 you became partner, I think, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was 2018, yeah.
So when did you join Heirloom Kitchen?
So it's been 7 years. We're in 2016.
2016.
November 2016.
November 2016. So, how did you make this transition? Where were you before leaving Heirloom, and why did you join?
I was in Asbury Park. I'd opened up a Mexican restaurant in Asbury Park, and don't tell me why. I was living in Jersey City in Hoboken. I had moved to Asbury Park for this opportunity because a couple of people from a great restaurant group were involved in the project, and I was willing to open up a Mexican restaurant to do it, and I wasn't very fluent in Mexican cuisine, but I was like, I'm gonna do modern techniques with classical ingredients, like Mexican ingredients, or Jersey ingredients with classical Mexican, and that's kind of how I was approaching that project, and it was very successful. But I was working 1 million hours, like so much so that I just had a newborn son. I was working 1 million hours. I was making one of the lowest paychecks I'd made to date, and I was almost ready to turn my back on the industry. I was like,
bring us to that moment.
Really.
What was it? Like, bring us to that emotional state where you're at.
Yeah, you would explain away a lot of the mistakes I'd explained away a lot of the mistakes I'd made. Partnering with the wrong people and things like that, right? But I was still getting to the same result, and I thought I was more discerning this time with who I was partnering with, but I still ended up feeling used and feeling, exhausted and not having any balance. And I'm like, my approach is wrong, and I can no longer justify blaming my situation, the person I'm with, my circumstances. These are all willful decisions that I'm making, and I'm very, very tired, very, very unhappy, and very, very broke. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm having, for all the successes, for all the places I work, for all the people I work with, for all the things that I think I've done well, why can't I find any modicum of success? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, if I had done anything else this much, this passionately, for this long, I would be way better off.
What were you telling yourself?
I was telling myself to quit, right? That was my talking myself into quitting, that I'd made a nice attempt at it, but it was over. And my partner, Neely, had a cooking school in Old Bridge, and she asked me to be a cooking teacher.
So your partner currently, but how did you know her at
this
point?
Okay, so I did know her. She was a regular at the restaurant, and she had invited me to do a dinner at the cooking school. She would do dinners, dinners at the cooking school. So celebrities, like chefs, would come in and collaborate and do a dinner. Yeah. So I had done a dinner, and she was a regular at my restaurant, and we were kind of friendly. And I'd work with her in her school in between jobs. So the thing that they don't tell you in culinary school or in your early years, when you do become a head chef and when you actually know what you're doing, when you become very good at what you are, at what you're doing, it becomes very hard to find a job. When you're a young cook, you can bounce around to any kitchen anywhere and bring your knives and you're good. But when you know what you're doing and you know how important it is to not waste your energy on worthless things and on the wrong people or the wrong project, you have to become discerning. And now it becomes very difficult to find a job. It becomes very difficult for the right opportunity, for the right people to collaborate, for the thing that is important. So I was looking for a job, and Neely came to me and asked me if I wanted to teach in the meantime. And I was like, I'll definitely do that. I can use some extra money. And I would teach 2-3 days a week in our cooking school while I was looking for another job. And people would come in and out of that cooking school, and I would meet new people, and that's how I got the job in Asbury Park. That's how I ended up in Asbury Park.
Got it. So this is how Neely gets into your life.
Yes.
And how long were you guys like in each other's circle before they started to pull you in beyond the cooking school?
So at the point where I was deciding I wanted to quit cooking, Neely offered me the job as a teacher at the cooking school full time, and I turned it down. And she came back like a week later. She's like, I have this idea of turning this cooking school into a part-time cooking school, part-time supper club. So like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you open up as a restaurant, and 2 days a week or 3 days a week, you teach a cooking class.
So kind of like a pop-up.
Kind of like a pop-up.
In a
school. Cooking school space.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I was like, that sounds cool. And at least in this model, I don't feel like it sounds like I'd be overworked.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, some of the things I was really unhappy with in my life was the amount of hours I was working for the little amount of money I was making. She was at least offering me something that didn't seem like it would be an abusive amount of hours. And in fact, it was so cathartic and wonderful an experience, like starting to work there and going through the process of opening this pop-up restaurant in this cooking school space. Like coming in 2 days a week where I would teach people how to cook was wonderfully beautiful, like soul fulfilling a little bit. You know, like I was always so shocked at the littlest details that I would do that the people would be like so astounded. Like little details and things like that were really soul filling. The impact I was making with these people.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, instant gratification. Yeah. The thing I had forgotten I was even in this for.
So you reconnected what you fell in love with.
What I fell in love with.
That's awesome.
The taking down the walls for this cooking school, people sat within 5 feet of the stove. It was like hibachi style, like because it was a cooking school.
Yeah, that's why I think I could never be back of house, because I don't get that cookie of seeing what the people experience the end.
That's why there's no walls in my kitchens, man. Yeah. I want people to see the people enjoying what they're doing. Like I want that connection to be there. I want you to see smiling faces. I want you to be able to catch a glimpse of someone taking the first bite.
Yeah, it's not about how pretty it looks on the plate when it goes out. It's about how pretty that smile looks on that
100,
face.
100
when it goes down.
100.
Yeah.
So this cooking school was bringing this amazing balance to my life. And also the thing of when a chef walks into a kitchen, there's a ticking clock, right? There's X amount of prep that has to get done by X amount of time, like by 4 o'clock. And then the second the 5 o'clock hits, every little ticket is a little time bomb. It's like a little stress bomb, like waiting for more urgency and more speed and more time. So like every second a chef walks in the building, he has this like little bit of weight on his shoulder. Not that it's anything I minded, because honestly I probably am a general and junkie, and this is why I do this for a living. Not that I minded it so much, but it was really refreshing. 2 days for the cooking school, I could like set up my week. I could work on a new dish in this like zenful way that I had never experienced without that clock ticking. I didn't have to account for every second of my day when I walked in the door. I didn't have to squeeze my R&D in a half an hour I had between this thing and this thing.
What did this allow?
It allowed me to be a chess player as opposed to checkers. Like I had balance. I felt better about everything I was doing. And my dishes were much more thoughtful, and my cooking got better. Like it was like this perfect balance that I never knew could exist for a restaurant. And it was by not being a restaurant. It was by being a cooking school and restaurant. So today, Heirloom is open 4 days a week as a restaurant, and we do cooking classes 3 days a week. So
Heirloom Kitchen, open 4 days a week as a restaurant. Then there's the Heirloom Cooking School. Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah.
Unofficially? And then you have the social club. Or is that separate?
That's another project.
Okay, that was another.
So the original baby was A cooking school and restaurant.
All right, I was wondering when I was doing my research if I was confusing the social club
You
with the supper club. So
Yes.
the supper club is totally different.
Totally different. The supper club was the initial idea of Heirloom.
Got
It was going to be this like little thing we do on the weekends. But that became so successful, and it became a revenue driver for the school. Like the people would come in for the restaurant and find out that we were a school.
Yeah.
People that did this classes wanted to come try the food at the restaurant.
Yeah.
So they were a complementary duo. So that grew and grew until what it is today. So it started out as 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday as a restaurant, and then we do 2 classes during the week, and now we do 4 days of service, 3 days of classes. We are open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And every cook has 2 days off, and every cook does 1 cooking class a week.
Got it. So we're about to take our first break to thank the sponsors, but before we dive into when you came on board full time as a partner, why don't you paint the picture of the history of Heirloom Restaurant Group? Because it was started by Nellie, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And her mother.
Her and her mother opened up a cooking school. Yeah.
So that it started as the cooking school, and did her mom eventually just transition out?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes.
Her
Her mom transitioned out, and we opened up the restaurant, and it was Neely running it on her own with me as a head chef.
Okay. Did I see someplace you guys are life partners too?
Yes.
Okay. I was wanting to make sure. Did I make that up in my head before
No,
I assumed that you guys are romantically involved?
That happened afterwards too.
Okay. So there's a whole nother dynamic we can dive into.
Yes, there is.
Like, I'm sure that will come up too. So now, okay, let's take the quick break to thank our sponsors. We'll be right back to unpackage how this became a partnership.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
All right, we're back, and the year in your timeline is 2016. You're doing 2 years before becoming a partner.
Yep.
What were the 2 years like? Well, how did your relationship with the business and with your partner evolve?
So, we worked really well together. Neely has been wonderful from the start. She's a creative as well. She does all the social media for the restaurant. She like floats around the place. So we had a really good working relationship. I've always was really honest with her, and she was always really honest with me. And what my favorite quality about Neely was, she's like, I've never run a restaurant before, so I'm going to depose to you. I believe that you know the right decisions, and you should be making the important decisions, and you tell me what's right and wrong. And that's how we started. And she was very much a sponge. She always asked a lot of questions, and I was always happy to answer all the questions. And she really, there was a lot of built-in trust in that. She acknowledged me right away that she wasn't an expert and that she didn't know the things, and she would rely on my expertise for all that. And that was something I'd never really received.
When she broke down her barriers and she got vulnerable with you, and how did that make you feel about her? How did that affect your perspective on her?
It was very endearing, and I thought it was very brave of her to say those things out loud. People aren't really willing to say things like that. And I also thought that I felt a responsibility to be honest and to make this successful, to reciprocate and make this successful. And like, this is someone who's going to rely on me. And
yeah. So you compare that version to your original version of a partner.
Yeah.
Where they're not telling the truth. They're being completely the opposite of honest with you. What happens when people get vulnerable and honest and transparent? You trust them more because they're not hiding anything. It's the same reason why a dog rolls over on its back. It's becoming vulnerable. It's showing you that like my most vulnerable part is exposed to you. I'm not a threat. But when you do that, the first thing you want to do is just go in and give that little sucker a hug, right? And scratch his belly, you know? And like, and that's what happens when we're being vulnerable, when we show our vulnerabilities. Like, hey, like I'm leaving it on the table here. There's nothing that I can do to surprise you. You lower your guard, and things is the speed of trust.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. It accelerates trust
for sure.
Very much so.
Yeah.
So, and here we go. We dove into this concept that was really weird. I think that Danny Meyer, it was Will Guidara, said something very powerful about two people with nothing to lose. She had a struggling, unsuccessful business, and I had a struggling, unsuccessful career. that we both dove into this weird concept of restaurant school pop-up restaurant. And, you know, it wasn't until I was, you know, elbows deep that I realized this is a really cool concept. This is a very, very, very profitable concept.
If you're willing to talk about why it's more profitable, I'm curious about what is interesting about this approach, this model that makes it more profitable.
It was, well, one is less is more. You know, the limiting way the restaurant gave us a limiting menu, so it optimized waste and all those things that I'd been really good at doing. For now, there's no day where the building is empty. So it requires only 2 people in the building to teach a cooking class. And so the building is operational for 3 days a week, that we don't have to staff an entire restaurant's worth of people to bring in revenue.
So your cost of goods go way down.
Yeah,
and your labor cost.
And your labor cost goes way down. There creates balance for the team. So people at Heirloom don't ever leave. And once we hire people, they're there for 4, 5, 6 years at a time, because they do like the work-life balance of this concept. You're there 2 days a week, 1 day a week, teaching a cooking class that you can like set up your stuff for the week. You can work on a new dish. So
does that R&D for the cooking class ever? Do you use that time to evolve new menu items for the restaurant?
Absolutely. That's the time to evolve new restaurant items for the restaurant.
So now you're getting paid to experiment. You're like a comic,
yes,
going up and doing stand-up in an open mic and just like practicing.
Correct.
Correct.
And the other thing that I love about the concept is everyone works their roles every night. So because we're only open 4 days a week, those 4 days, everyone that works, all the chefs come in, and they're in their roles. So they're really good at their roles. So the quality of what we were doing, the replication of all the dishes that we'd make on a day in and day out, it gets better and better and better, because we're all.
So how many people show up to your classes?
We do 15 people.
15 people.
They sell out within minutes.
Within minutes.
So we put up a month's worth of cooking classes at the first of every month, and within 30 minutes they're gone.
So every month you basically launch an agenda or a syllabus.
Yes, a syllabus. There you go.
A syllabus, right? Cooking class. And this is what we're going to be cooking this month.
Yes.
And then your email list. I'm assuming this goes out to a list.
Yeah, subscriber
segmented list of people who are interested in your.
And they're
classes.
up on our website too if you're interested. But at this point, like, people sometimes email us like, oh, I don't believe the classes are real. They're always sold out. They can't possibly be real. Why you just advertise sold out classes? I'm like, this. You can show up at any of these days. You'll see people in the building.
Are they the same people usually? Is it people who are like hobbyists who are like regulars in your classes now?
There are some regulars, yeah.
Are people trying to pick up girls when they come to you? Is this somebody's angle? Is this?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. People make friends at the class. The classes are pretty intimate, so you're all working together, and a lot of friendships have been made at those cooking classes.
I mean, there's the power of food, man, bringing people together, and especially when you're cooking with people. I think there's something magic that happens when you prepare a meal with somebody.
We're very much almost like Cheers as a restaurant too, because people take classes with us, so they know us much more personally and intimately than other chefs at other open kitchen concepts. And they walk in like, hey Zach, hey Dave, hey this, hey Neely. Like, people feel like they know us because they spent a couple hours in a class with us.
I would have a blast.
Yeah, they're really fun.
Are you on Airbnb experiences by any chance?
No.
Ooh, we got to talk about that.
Okay.
Maybe afterwards, but I think it sounds like you're selling out. You don't need the draw.
But I mean,
supply and demand. So the first step is you create a syllabus. You launch it out to your
subscribers.
It sells out within minutes. Is it just going out to a list? Does it get broadcasted on social media, or do you not?
It goes out to a list. We'll post on our Instagram that list. The classes go live today.
Okay.
It goes out to all the subscribers, but you can go on our website and click on the class and purchase it as well. So you can go on our website and purchase a class. If you go on April 2nd, all of the May classes are full. So it looks like there's nothing to purchase, because it really isn't. But they were live. They were all empty on the 1st of April. All of May classes had no, but they go really quickly.
So is this different than costing out like a traditional menu as far as cost? Like, because, I mean, I'm assuming there's a different value proposition there, right? Like, you're more hands-on. You're working with the chef. There's an experience where you're educating. Mm-hmm. So I feel like you wouldn't be able to use the traditional 10 to 15% profit margin, right?
It's on food for the classes.
Just generally your profit.
Yeah, it's much bigger. The profit margin on the classes are much bigger than the.
How do you go about figuring out the value of something like that? that? Like, what is a good aiming point in your opinion?
I mean, at first it was. I mean, they've gone up in price throughout the years. But it was like what someone was willing to pay. You know, we were trying to get them all sold out, and then once they're sold out, then you creep it up another couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, just in case, you know, as inflation happens. And then, you know, the classes that I teach now, I think, are more expensive than the classes other people teach because I was on Top Chef, and then people wanted specifically to be with me. So I was like, all right, if you're going to specifically only want the classes that I'm in, then they're going to be more expensive than you.
Well, that's another point. We
things like that, like
Top Chef. I'm sure helped. When,
yeah,
so
totally.
like now you're cooking with a celebrity too. Now it's Meet the Chef.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that, the Top Chef thing eventually, I'm sure. But when did that happen for you? Was that before or after you became partner?
It was right before I became partner.
Because I remember seeing a video of you talking in 2018 about your Top Chef premiere, or it was going to be
before once. So someone from Top Chef came into dinner and watched, you know, me cooking. It's a stage, you know. Watched me interact with guests, ate the food, watched me do what I do, and they went back to they're one of the casting producers. They went back like, I got a guy, and he's perfect. You got to put him on. And that person really championed me to get on the show. They literally, when I was on the show, like, you need to give this person like a gift card or something. Like, they'll never pay for a meal again at Heirloom. So that was a real, you know, thing. Someone just watched what I did for every night, and just, you never know who's in the audience, you never know who you're cooking for, and they asked me to be on the show, which was really cool.
And that's a big lesson right there. You never know who you're cooking for. Yeah. Treat every guest as if they're a future investor, because they could very well be.
Yeah, it's the truth. Yeah. It's the truth, and being an Heirloom made me much more hospitable. You know, there's no more walls. I literally was looking at guests going, "Oh, I don't like this." I'm like, I can make you this instead. I got you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my favorite thing to do is listen to two people debate on what to get, and like, as they choose, and knowing that whatever they didn't choose, I was going to send it out as a bite. Yeah. You know, like, that's my favorite thing to do, is like surprise them. Like, oh, I don't know if I should get the duck or the chicken or the steak or the duck. I don't know. And I'll order the duck, and so I'll give them a baby portion of the steak as a mid-course, just complimentary. Like, just in case here you go. Afraid of missing out. Just so you know what you missed out on. Like, and making a moment out of it. And that's a nice, easy way of making a guest for life. Like,
did this casting person ever tell you what it was that sold you on like, or sold him on you?
It was my ability to cook and talk and entertain. She's like, you made amazing food look effortless. You engaged with people the entire time you did it. She's like, had never seen anything like it.
Nice. So you get the role.
Yep.
Top Chef. I never got into the TV shows. I'm not gonna lie. So Top Chef. That's like a competition. A bunch of people get.
Yeah. We got moved out to Kentucky, and every week somebody goes home, kind of thing. Like.
Okay. So how far did you make it?
A little over halfway.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's pretty and I've heard it's a legit competition.
To me, it's a legit competition. And to me, of all the cooking shows, that one had like the most James Beard finalists, the most Michelin starred people. Like of all the shows, that was the one I watched. You know, because I thought it had the most talented people on it.
So, when you got this notoriety and this new almost like mini celebrity status, did that help with lobbying for partnership? Bringing all this new business to the...
I think when Top Chef reached out, Neely had mentioned making me a partner before that.
And she I better hurry up. Before
I think that it kind of lit a fire. But like, she had mentioned it before. So it's not like it was like all that a surprise. Like, she had mentioned it within the first year. I just didn't have any money to put in. Like, again, like if you're going to be an investor, if you're going to be a partner, you have to invest in the company. Yeah. I didn't have any money. You know, I didn't. You know,
you were just paying off your school. At this point, you were still paying off your school loans. You just announced that you paid off your school loan.
My last student loan payment.
Congratulations, man! Yeah. You're an inspiration to me. I'm still working. I'm still putting.
It'll happen, man. One day it'll be the last payment. I promise. It happens.
So obviously things are going well. So. You come back, the show premieres. I'm sure you guys start like selling out even faster than before.
Yeah.
Do you start increasing your rates?
It doubled our business basically. Yeah. And it was great to be a partner in the business that I came back to. Yeah. And know that all that the work that we were putting in, I was going to be a recipient of it. Like,
are you willing to talk about your current partnership and how you guys shape that?
Sure.
So what does that look like?
Sure.
What did you learn?
So when I signed on to Heirloom, I invested as a 25% partner.
Okay.
So I'm 25% partner in the original Heirloom Kitchen in Old Bridge. After that, anything going forward with Neely, I'm 50-50 partners.
How'd you guys go about assessing the value of the business? Did you bring in attorneys for EBITDA and stuff like that?
She gave me a number that I thought was fair. Ultimately, as far as I'm concerned, like a business is only as profitable as the revenue it generates. So it can't ever be more of the money than. So I knew what the restaurant was making, and her number came in a little under that, and I was like, that's fair.
Yeah, I
didn't have to really worry about it. So for the most part, if your restaurant does $1 million in sales, it's not really. You can kind of evaluate it at $1 million because it generates $1 million in revenue, but. Even then, if your expenditures and the way you run the business, you could be losing money at that.
So how did you come up with 25% if you had no money? It sounds like you had no pennies to rub together.
Yeah, so I went back to my parents and borrowed some money. And
there's no shame in that.
No.
I think there's a lot of people that think like you should be embarrassed. I think
I'm lucky. I'm not embarrassed. I'm just
privilege
lucky.
is a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
privilege has such a negative air with it, but I think what's truly sad is if you are privileged and you don't take advantage of that privilege, because if you use that privilege, you can then turn around and use your privilege and pay it forward. Like if you are well intended, lever the fuck out of that privilege and do as much good shit as possible.
People have a negative connotation to lucky. I don't have any negative connotation with lucky. I am lucky. I had great parents. I had I'm lucky. I'm so lucky. I work my ass off. I'm very dedicated and hardworking individual. I'm disciplined. I'm genuine and honest. I have a lot of qualities. Yeah. Lucky is definitely fucking one of them. I'm sorry. It's just, it is. Like,
your parents, I don't know if I'm assuming you paid them back or you're planning on paying
absolutely.
them back.
No, I paid them back.
So it's a good investment for them too. Yeah. Long term. I don't know how you guys structured that, but at this point you were a good investment. It was a no-brainer for them.
Yeah, they had no problem giving me the money.
So you're officially a partner. At this point, are you two? This is where it gets even more awkward. Were you romantically involved at this point?
No, we were not romantically involved at this point. That happened after Top Chef.
Okay. How did that change the dynamic?
It was scary because it was such a good working relationship. Like at first, it was like I don't want to ruin what we have going.
Yeah, of course.
This could complicate everything.
Right.
So it was a little treaded lightly, but once she was honest with me about her feelings, it kind of changed the way I started viewing her as well. So then
how do you even have that conversation with a business
she's
partner?
very gutsy. She's very, if you've never met Neely, she never hides anything.
How'd she win you over?
Very straightforward. No, she was just honest about her feelings. I've always admired her. I just didn't look at her in that light. She was my business partner. Like, so my brain, my brain had this like barrier. I never once viewed her as someone I would date. But all the while thought she was a wonderful, generous, kind, talented, beautiful woman, but I'm not someone for me to date.
Right.
So once
and good on you for having that discipline. Not all men are able to hold back and respect.
Well, it helps that
boundaries.
Chefs have such a fucking terrible reputation. That I didn't want to be one of those scumbags. You know, like that's such a real thing. I've witnessed it a lot in my career. Like the chefs using their position of power to leverage. To get
what is your inner dialogue on that? Just like how
it's gross. It's just gross. Like I treat everybody like they're my sister. Yeah. Like that's it. Like that's just the way. Just be honest and caring and appropriate. Like
no wonder why she fell in love with you. Damn, man. So she shares her feelings.
She shares her feelings, and then it changed the whole dynamic. I couldn't unhear it. I couldn't. Now I started developing feelings for her. So. That was kind of the turning point, and then we started dating.
So talk about like the actual just your existence in this world together as partners and how you guys complement each other, business and life.
Oh, I think we complement each other so well. She has we have the exact same palate. So she's very, very knowledgeable about food. When she tastes something, she can tell you what's in it. We both love what we do. We both love hospitality. We both love dining at restaurants. We both are obsessed with it. So all those things are really, really helpful when you are as obsessed with it as I am. Yeah. So those are huge commonalities. So that's where we are the same. We're different in that I'm this like kind of like hippie, leader, but like I'm just like kind of floating along through life. I don't make plans because I never really had time to make plans. So why make plans? But she's very regimented and detail oriented and forceful and wants to like carve her niche out. And she's like this like, aggressive human in this world that won't take no for an answer, and that totally complements I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, I talk her and give her the perspective of like, no, like, even though you didn't get what you wanted, life's pretty good. You have so much, like, things are really great.
Yeah.
Let me give you a back rub, and then make it all go away. You know, like, things like that. Like, we just complement each other in that we're both ambitious, but she's much more forceful.
So for all the people that say never go into business with your life partner, your significant other, what is your counter?
My counter is marriage and relationship is already a business kind of thing, right? Like, you're supposed to be working together anyway, whether it's in a relationship at home and all those things. Like, communication is important, pulling your weight is important, respect for each other is important, anticipating needs are important. All those things are really important in a marriage, in a relationship. It's just easily translatable into a business relationship to me. Right. And also, like, she does work. It's not like we're side by side. She's not in the kitchen with me. She's floating around, and we get to see each other when we want to, and we get to, like, and she can decide, Dave's in a really bad mood, I'm just going to stay away from him. And that's okay, too. Yeah. So it's just, like, continuing those kind of healthy communication skills in both aspects of life. Yeah.
I mean, I honestly lean in the direction, like, I've noticed a pattern. Like, I've had a lot of people on the show that are married to their business partners, and I think it's funny because sometimes when you talk to those married couples who are partners in life and in business, you talk to them about partnerships, they're like, absolutely not. You don't, like, partnerships are dangerous. I don't get it. I'm like, you two are married. I'm like, what makes you think this is not a partnership? They're like, well, that's a good point. But it's weird when it's marriage, you don't tend to see it as a business partnership.
But it is. It's a relationship. Sure. A relationship is work. It's you know, you have to do things for one another. You have to communicate with one another. It's work, but it's not so hard. Like, I think Chris Rock made a joke, is like, 2 people can carry a couch easy, but not one. Like, so like that with the marriage, you both got to do some work, because it's part of what makes it easy. If you're not willing to do any work and only one person's working, that's when a marriage is work, because only one person's working. It feels like it.
So any advice for our listeners out there who might be going, or maybe they're married to their future business partner, or maybe they're married to their current business partner, or maybe they're thinking about getting married or whatever. Like, what is your advice for them to draw that line between work and profession, or life and profession?
I think that if you have a good relationship and it's a healthy one, then you can easily make it a business relationship as well. Yeah. If you think if you don't communicate well with your partner and you don't have a healthy relationship, if you guys avoid each other more than come together, I wouldn't go into business with that person.
What does communicating well look like?
Communicating well is being able to tell something they don't want to hear, and knowing that you don't have to be afraid of saying something that they don't want to hear.
How do you create that space, that safe space?
That's really deep. Just being authentic and being caring, and knowing that just because and putting yourself in their shoes sometimes, knowing that your unawareness is insulting, you know, and being able to listen to when they need something and process it, even though you didn't mean to hurt their feelings or whatever, that your obtuseness did, and finding a way to figure it out to not do it again, you know. Man.
Now I hit the jackpot with you. Sure. She's a lucky lady. So moving forward in the evolution of the Heirloom Restaurant Group. So at this point, there's the cooking class, there's Heirloom Kitchen, and then there's the pop-up.
We did it. So the pop-up was basically, Heirloom Kitchen started as like a pop-up restaurant in a cooking school, and then we made it a full-time restaurant. Got it. So Heirloom Kitchen is the same. So far, we've only spoke about one place, one building, one restaurant.
And today, there's, in addition,
we have a Heirloom at the St. Laurent, which is a hotel on the Jersey Shore in Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Is that a social club?
As a social club. Yeah. So it's a social club where people subscribe to be members of the St. Laurent Hotel. They get privied, you know, parties, events, they get to reservation preferences, they get to spend time at the pool. There's a whole lifestyle.
Is that around a membership?
It's a membership, yeah.
Okay.
So the social club membership is involved. We are not specifically part of that membership. That's not my business model. We are the food and beverage wing of this hotel that offers this membership. So I am running Heirloom Kitchen out of the St. Laurent Hotel. I do all the food and beverage. There's 2 food and beverage spaces. There's the restaurant. Oh, there's 3. There's the restaurant, there's the pool, and then there's this bar, this cocktail bar.
how does that work as far as like, do they just cut you a check?
So we have a management deal. So
Okay.
if you want to get into the real nitty-gritty, it's a percentage deal based on all net sales.
So you mentioned this earlier that you like
I would only do
management.
this deal.
So
going
what is it
forward,
about
anybody.
this approach that you like the most?
I think it's clean cut. It's straightforward. It's monthly, every month. With POS systems now, it's very easy to get all the information needed to carve out what exactly we've earned, and I'm being paid for my expertise in real time. I bring with me knowledge. I bring with me the ability to hire. I bring with me systems. I bring with me intellectual property. I bring a name at this point. So all these things that I am.
Yeah, brand, right?
Yeah, I'm good at.
Right.
I bring to the table, and I get percentage off the top. It also incentivizes me to generate more.
Wait,
So all the food and beverage sales, I get percentage every month.
When you say off the
right
top, that's gross.
Yes.
Got it. And I had a question locked and loaded. It's hard to keep questions in and listen at the same time. That's why I take notes, because I don't want to lose my questions. So what do you bring? So you talked about what you bring to the table as far as like your skill set, your brand, your knowledge, your know-how. What are they responsible for? Where's what's the other side of that?
They built out a space for us.
Okay,
They house Heirloom.
the assets.
They made a beautiful building. They own all the equipment in it. They and at any point they could tell me to leave, and we'll take the name off the Heirloom won't be associated with the Saint Laurent anymore. And if that's what they were ever to choose to do, then they can happily do that, and I won't get my fee anymore.
Got it.
But they own the building. They own all the equipment in it. And they pay all the employees. I just bring menu development
Leadership.
and everything that I do to the table.
Got it. Now, are you there, or are you basically almost like a kind of like a coach?
Yeah, I'm kind of like a coach. I was there for the opening for the first 4 months, almost every day, in and out, dedicated. Creating culture is important, and I think that the more that they can see my face and know that my standards, and I'm a very hands-on leader. I work we just opened Lita here 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've been working the line every day.
We're about
first
to
one
spend
in.
at least 40 minutes talking. No, maybe not 40 minutes, but at least we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
But I very much lead from the front, and I like to get my hands dirty. I love cooking. I actually cooking. I'm not one of those clipboard guys. I never wanted to be one. That's what I loved about the original Heirloom. I was behind the stove every day for every service until I went to Top Chef as the first time I didn't cook every protein on that for that restaurant. So I love to cook, truly, genuinely. So it's easy for me. So when the Saint Laurent opened, I was there on the ground floor for the first 6 months every day. Open and close, basically, just setting the tone, hiring the right people, empowering them, and then I can step away. Once I know that it's in good hands and the people have now proven to be capable, know what I
other
expect.
restaurant.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you have a CDC there. Or something
I do.
Along those lines.
Yeah. Josh Pearson, he's amazing.
Got it. So any advice around setting this up, elements of a management deal that language lingo to be aware of when setting this up to protect yourself? Or maybe when you're setting it up, if you're looking to bring on somebody, maybe you're the person that owns the building, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking to contract out. I think this is where the industry is going, by the way, is hiring people to get you going, develop the menu, hone in the systems, hone in the recipes, develop the culture, and then slowly transition out.
Yeah.
And then maybe come back when things get rocky. You know?
Yeah. I honestly, I still, I do a manager meeting once a week. We're involved in exchanges. I have to okay all the new menu items. So I'm very much a part of what they're doing.
You're
but
an
I also,
executive chef.
but I also want to empower them. I want the menu items. I have, I think, one dish on the menu. Everything else is absolutely 100% them.
I love that.
And that's what I want. I don't want to impose. I'm not David Burke. I'm not making you put everything on a clothesline in every restaurant. That's not what I do. I want to hire talented individuals. I want to pay them well. I want to empower them to do what they do, because I love chefs. I love cooking. I love restaurants. And I want you to love it too.
Yeah.
I'm not there to impose my arbitrary desires and likes on you. I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what you like.
Collective.
It's a collective.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I approach all the restaurants. So Even at the original Heirloom, Zach is in charge of the menu development, and I go in to check up on it. And right now, Lita, the menu is mostly mine, if not all mine, because I'm here.
It's also fresh.
It's fresh, and I'm here. And it's named after my mom.
Yeah.
So like this is me. But even if I were to walk away, I would then have to let go of some of that.
Yeah.
You know, you have to empower the people beneath you because everyone likes to come up with dishes. Everyone, if you really love what you're doing as a chef, you wanna give your opinion, your voice, what it is that you like and how you see food through your eyes. So I always want to empower the chefs to be able to contribute.
I love that. So moving forward, when did you start the social club? How long has that been going?
So that was June of last year. So we're coming up on a year.
Okay. So the most recent project obviously is where we are today, Lita. When did the ball for this start coming into motion? What was the vision?
So the vision for Lita started when I was in the pandemic. We were forced to shut down. And I've never been a very nostalgic person. Chefs aren't really that much, I don't think, because I'm worried about tomorrow's prep list, what I have to do today. Like I'm just constantly pushing forward, and I like tweezer food, so I never really even thought of my cultural food or what I grew up having as something special. That was fuel. And when I was stuck at home for 2 months cooking for Neely and my son, you start going through some things that you like all the time, but then all of a sudden you're like, what else am I going to make? Like I'm a chef, like what am I going to make? So I started digging back to the things my grandma would make. I kind of started missing them, and I started making them, and I'm like, wow, this is delicious. Like you can't get this anywhere. Like this is crazy. Like that this is this good, and there's no one selling anything like this. Like
you saw it through a different filter now too.
Exactly.
You experienced it through as a child, but now you're seeing that under a whole new lens with a different perspective and different value. Yep.
So that was where the initial birth of the idea was born. So we were looking to grow outside of Heirloom. We had been really successful at Heirloom. We're coming on. It was like 4 or 5 years, and we had some really great. After Top Chef, the business was booming. So we were like, okay, we have a nest egg to invest in another project, and that was going to be Lita. That's how we decided, and we're going to do Lita in Philadelphia. We're going to open in Philadelphia before we're going to open a restaurant in Philadelphia before the pandemic. The pandemic happened, we didn't, and then Lita was the next idea to have. So we're going to open up Lita. So that's how that happened during the pandemic.
So. Is it worth getting into why it didn't open in Philadelphia?
The pandemic happened. We had investors. We had been working on a deal we were like 2 weeks before we were going to sign the deal, and the pandemic happened, and Philly took it hard.
Yeah.
We did a pop-up in Philly 2 years ago in November for 6 months with the same landlord we were going to sign a deal with, which was super successful. And that's where we met the people from the hotel, and that's how we got the hotel deal through the pop-up in Philly. It all worked out. So it all happened for a reason.
So what was it about this current location that was appealing to you?
Well, liquor license laws in New Jersey are pretty whacked. So we found a liquor license in this town that was actually somewhat affordable.
Was it tied to the space?
No. Okay. So we bought a random liquor license a year and a half ago.
So the way that works, there's only a limited amount of licenses.
Yes.
So in order to get one, somebody has to go out of business.
Yes.
So you can only transfer a license.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So someone was going out of business. They were selling their license. We bought it. We've been sitting on it looking for a space. So
are
we
all
found
licenses created equal? Is the value of one license the same as all licenses?
No. So it depends on what's really whacked about this is a license is valued what some idiot's willing to pay for it. Okay. So, for example, in Asbury Park, somebody bought a license for $1 million. So now licenses are worth $1 million in Asbury Park. So nobody's gonna sell it for less than that. Yeah. Someone paid $1 million. Actually, I tried to buy one for 1.2. They said no, 1.5. I was like, get the heck out of here. Even 1.2 was like stupid idea. I'm so glad.
How do we change things like that?
Oh man! So I've been talking about this for a really long time because I think it's the single most damaging thing to the restaurant industry in New Jersey. We're stuck between Philadelphia and New York. We have some of the best chefs in the world, like at our hands reach, but none of them come here. Why? Because you can't run a business without alcohol, with a liquor license. Because so many places that have a decent location, the liquor license, they're $1 million, and you have to be a nightclub to make money on $1 million. A small restaurant can't make money. So, and because there's only these licenses that already pre-exist that you can't make more of, you don't allow a 20-seat beautiful beautiful restaurant with a small wine list to exist.
See, in my mind, that's a perfect example of a systematic broken issue.
Oh, it's totally broken. And when you talk about it to the system, someone always bring up like, well, what about the people that already own them? Like, so what? So what happened with the people who own the stock that went out? What about the people that own the stock in those 2 banks that went out of
Yeah, they're
business?
still going to have their license.
They still have it. Just be better at it.
Their license is no longer
It
an
allows
asset.
laziness for these people that it's lazy to think that if you already own one, that no one else can do that too. Like,
Well, it's liquid. They're essentially looking at that license as cash.
yeah,
So
but it's not.
Who wants to burn a 1.5? Well, but it literally is, because
And
it's
the other thing is so weird that we're protecting these few people that have them when the vast majority of the population doesn't have one.
Yeah.
Like, they're so outnumbered. I don't even understand the perspective that we have to protect these people.
So what happens? Like, is it voting? Is that a too far right issue?
So it comes up every now and then, and it never has legs. There's too many people blocking it, and I'm thinking there's too many people with control over or with a say over it that own a liquor or some of these people own 4 or 5 of them, man.
Yeah.
They're like, and they think it's like basically an ATM for $4 or $5 million. Like they have them and they pocket them, and they're just existing in this nebulous. Meanwhile, the industry here is hard because you have to do it all BYO.
Yeah.
It's all BYO. My Heirloom Kitchen's BYO. It's much harder to be a restaurateur without a liquor license at all.
Imagine.
They should at least do beer and wine licenses.
Right.
Or like that's so reasonable. The compromise is out there. It's like right there. It's such a reasonable compromise for everybody.
Didn't I?
Oh, you did.
Man, let it out. It's good. This is what we're here to do, is to share perspective, and this is the transform part of what we're here to do. Inspire, empower. You've done that, man. Now it's like, where are you now, and how do we like what are you trying to? How are you trying to change the game? How are you trying to challenge the status quo?
I'm so happy you mentioned that. I am trying to change the game. Yeah. So like the back of house front of house divide has been real.
Why did you feel like there was a need to change the game?
So I've been saying it for a long time. So even when I was on Top Chef, I was like, yo, this restaurant model is broken. Like the divide of pay and what chefs make and what the world is now costing is crazy. Like, the gap is widening ever so much. Then there's the gap between the front of house and back of house, which has always been wide, but that's still, again, widening. And if not, not fast enough, they're not closing the gap. It's actually getting a little wider. And this is in 2018. Was it 18 when I was on Top Chef? So I was like saying this on Top Chef, and they're like laughing at me, like calling me a snowflake. And like the people I was telling, all my peers, they called me a snowflake. Like, oh, these people just don't want to work anymore. You're just like giving them excuses. You're like, they need to put their head down and bust it so they can make it like we did. I'm like, no, man, like that's not. This is crazy. Like this is a big problem. And then the pandemic happened, and then nobody came back to the restaurant industry. Like, nobody wanted to. Like, oh, the restaurants are opening. And there was crickets. And we're like, nah.
Walk dogs.
Yeah, we're good. I've been doing this Uber thing. It actually pays more. Like, it's crazy. Like, so it was unfortunate that even when we made the concession as an industry, I started paying everyone $20 an hour in my restaurants. And even, like, I felt like a lot of people started paying more. And then all of a sudden inflation hit. And I'm like, God damn it, I still feel like everyone's suffering. I still feel like it's not enough. Like, and now I'm out of pocket more than I've ever been. And I'm trying to make it better, and that's not enough. I was like, the model itself is broken. And I'm going back to this model. And the model idea came to me because of Heirloom Kitchen. This like weird model that I never anticipated brought me so much happiness and balance. And I'm like, what a little tweak did for something that I've been doing my whole life created so much more balance. I'm like, what other little tweak can I make that can be more replicable, that can be more can be scalable? Because you can't have a cooking school restaurant on every corner. Like, right. You wouldn't; those cooking classes would be worthless. Right. So that's not real. But it was real to me because it works. But it's not a scalable thing. That's not a real industry game changer. And then I started thinking about the Danny Meyer method when he wanted to take away tipping and kind of split the divide between the front of the house and start just bridge that gap a little bit and
put everybody on salary.
But make it like more, give a little the bump to the kitchen and take a bump from the front.
Right.
And he lost all his front of house people. And I knew that was going to happen. I'm like, because no one's going to take a pay cut. Like, they're not going to volunteer. Why wouldn't they have volunteered all these years to fucking take a pay cut and give it to the kitchen regardless? They could have done it a long time ago. They're just not gonna.
If it's going to happen, it needs to happen across like the board. Everybody
Yes.
needs to do the same thing. But anyway,
So that's what I came up with. So I was like, I bet you if I hired only chefs and then created a model where the chefs work in the front 1 week, we divide them up into 2 teams. One team's in the kitchen and one team's on the front. And every week they swap places.
so you're working with the same team members,
Mm-hmm.
but the collective team swaps.
Swaps.
What is the benefit of doing that versus saying just like rotating people out and not having a set team?
Well, I think there's something to be said about continuity and camaraderie, and just communication is better with like having line mates. It is a team aspect to cooking.
Yeah. Do you ever
So I
trade
wanted to continue
team
that.
members?
I haven't yet. So we're 3 weeks old.
That's true.
So this process is only 3 weeks old. We're very in the baby hatching, crawling out of
Yeah.
the egg stages of this whole concept.
And this was really the draw for me. I mean, obviously you have an incredible backstory. You've gotten a lot of industry recognition. Like that was all appealing. But what really sucked me in, I was like, I really want to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Is people challenging the status quo and
Yeah.
saying there's a better way to do this. And I think that if we're going to make a change in the industry, we have to share this perspective.
This is the thing I'm most passionate about right
Yeah,
now. More
yeah.
so than this restaurant
Yeah.
opening is the model that we're trying to do right here, right now.
And I love this approach. And there's
Yeah.
one other restaurant that I know of that's doing this. And
Okay.
do you know of any other
I
people?
don't know of anybody doing it. Not saying that it isn't happening, but I
Yeah.
don't know of anybody
I
doing
would
it.
love to introduce you guys because
Yeah.
they've been doing this for at least 5 years now. So
Wow.
I had the original founder on the show. I think I don't know if he's still working, if he sold his percentage, but the chef is still there, and they're still they're fucking sold. Like they're packed every day. Like it's hard to get a seat after 4:30 at this place. So they're doing well.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I've noticed is that they have the same employees working now that they did 5 years ago.
Amen.
Yeah, and like,
Amen.
so like there's definitely something to this, but I would imagine there's some challenges with this too.
Sure.
So what are some of before I just start spewing my opinions out? What are the challenges you are anticipating?
So I've also told this to a lot of people before I put it into place, and I wanted people to poke holes in it. And so there's things that people said that the one biggest thing that everyone was saying was, you're not going to find enough chefs to do this. Like, chefs don't want to do this. Like, you're not going to find enough chefs to do this. It was very easy finding 10 chefs to do this. Then it was literally not a problem. When we show them what the probable percentages and the pay scale will be once you're rolling, and how different it would be from what a normal line cook position pays, the difference is stark. So like once you like let them into what you're trying to accomplish and what that would mean to their paycheck, people were very willing to listen, and I had no problem finding chefs. So I found 10 chefs like that, 2 seconds. So that was one problem I was anticipating, convincing people that that this was ideal for them, and and I wanted people to believe in it and to want it to succeed, because it's going to be hard. There's going to be growing pains, and there's going to be muscles that they have to flex that they're not used to flexing. So
Right.
they have to push through that pain to get to the other side, which will be a better space for them, right? So I didn't want any defeatists. I wanted people that were like about change. I want to rock the boat. I want to change the industry a little bit. I want to make a mark. So they're all about that. So
Yeah.
that was one thing I was anticipating being hard that isn't. People said, oh, well, chefs don't talk to guests really well. Some chefs I'm like, they don't have to talk to guests. All I'm requiring is a contribution. You have to contribute. So if you're in the front of the house, you can clear tables, you can mark tables, you can do all the back waiter stuff, you can run food. You don't have to be the captain or the hospitality version that the people see. The magnanimous.
You're making me think of hospitality DNA right now, and I have to admit that I think I'm one of 3 people who have the audio version. The other 2 are the authors. So it's it's just dropping. It's called the Hospitality DNA. It's a great book. The Daves from Bar Logistics wrote it. There's 2 Davids. Their last name's Dalmzalski, and the other name's escaping me right now. But they use Coyote Ugly as they profile that restaurant group. And maybe, I don't know what your opinions of Coyote Ugly are, but it was a very successful bar that came out of Texas. And the owner talked about how what they do is they're entertaining. These ladies are on the bar dancing, doing this crazy stuff, singing, doing all these things. So you can't just be good at making drinks. You also are entertaining.
Yeah.
So what she talked about is like, listen, like we have a cast of players. There are people that are good at the singing and dancing, and we let them lean into that when it gets busy. They get up on the bar and they start doing what they're good at, and then our A team, our talented mixologists come in and do the other stuff. So I think that's kind of what I'm hearing here.
Absolutely,
is you got to you put the team together, and it's a shift, but you can't expect everybody to do every role, because that's the challenge.
100%.
I was thinking
100%. Not everyone is suited to do every role. Just like I'm gonna need someone to be on garde manger. I don't need 7 grill cooks.
Yeah,
I need a garde manger cook. I need a pasta.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think some of the things that are wrong with our industry, and why some of the chefs that frustrated me the most coming into this industry were the ones that wanted everyone to be like a robot. You wanted every person to have every skill set to be like this robot, but we're not robots. We're people. We have different needs, different goals, different ambitions, different things, different strengths, weaknesses. We bring different things to the table. And when I was a chef, you put people in positions to succeed, and then you coach them or push them and lean them, encourage them to do the things that they're not good at too, so they can grow, right? But it's not my job to make you grow. If you want to grow. And I'm gonna prod you. I'll nudge you. I'll remind you, because I want you to, because I think it'd be good for you, but that's on you. You got to do the extra work to do I tell people, find the uncomfortable moments in your day, in your kitchen day. That's growth. When you're uncomfortable, when you're doing the thing that you're not good at, that's you getting better. So fucking lean into that. Yeah. And I'll nudge you, but I don't make you. Right. You can do this. You can be a button. You can do the same thing. You'd be really, really good at it. And if you're happy doing that every day for the rest of your life, God bless. Yeah. You can do it here. I don't care.
You're talking about it from the chef perspective, the chefs moving to the front of house and the challenge that might be associated with that. But as a front of house person, I know I can't do what a chef does. I don't have the mental capacity to remember if somebody's calling out orders. I'm also dyslexic and I read things backwards. It's this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm I've always struggled in the kitchen because I can't keep it all in my head. I've always struggled with that. But I'm a banger host, and I love people, and I love making people happy, and I will go so far out of my way to be unreasonable with hospitality, right? Like Bologna says. Yeah. And that transitions well as a host. But and it would be amazing if I was here working for you, but if you put me in that kitchen, man, I'm gonna be a wrench.
So that's why we're hiring chefs. So there has to be a talent pool, like a skill set, a basic skill set in the kitchen, a comfortableness in the kitchen. That's what I'm really kind of. So that's why there's 10 chefs.
So, well, you won't really know until you give it some time to kind of unroll, right? But I'm actually headed to Minneapolis to talk to Mike Payton, one of the authors. He's very much a part. He didn't write the book Traction, but he's basically Gino Wickman has basically passed the baton to Mike Payton, who's co-authored the Process and Get a Grip, which are in the one of the multiple books that are in the family of the Traction books. And we talk in Traction and the entrepreneurial operating system. They talk about when you're giving somebody a job, they need to want it, have a capacity to do it. Get it, want it, and have a capacity to do it. Those are the 3 variables. They have to get it, meaning they have to understand what the expectation is. They have to want the job, meaning there has to be some type of desire there to do it. And they have to be capable of doing the job. Or the 3 filters you have to put people through before giving them a promotion or a raise or whatever. Yeah. So as I'm saying this, what's going through your mind? Get it, want it, capability to do it.
Get it, want it, capacity. Get it, want it, capacity. I think that's a great filter, and I think that's more important than, say, a resume. So those are I think Will Guidera again. We're gonna go back to him because it's so
fresh,
so fresh. And I've been really immersing myself in front of house stuff because I too want to be a student with these guys, right? Lead by the front, I want to be a student with someone. I really have been throwing myself into front of the house things lately. So, but he says he hires hospitable people, right? So the capability part is really important for me. So that was a part of the hiring process as well. Finding those moments for the people that were sitting in front of me, to want to get this job, to want to make a change, to want to be willing to embrace the uncomfortable moments of what they're about to do, but also be capable of it. And so I had to have a sense of warmth or hospitality or ability to be hospitable from them in some way, right? It didn't have to be showmanship or talkability, or if you were nervous in front of people, that's okay. I think that those things will go away over time, and I don't need every single person to be that level of guest facing. And just like taking the pool that you have and then diagnosing and then coaching up the ones that have the ability and can be more, and getting them to that point. So I think it worked out really, really well so far. It's working out really, really well so far. I found roles for every single employee, and that one that is suited to their needs. And every day they're getting better. So that's like, those are the things that I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like when you think about if you have somebody who's a talent in the back of house and they have some level of social and emotional intelligence too, and they have that desire to serve and to please and to give hospitality, you would think that they would make such a banger server, because they're really what a server is a salesperson, right? Like at the end of the day, they have to know that product. And like, who knows it better than the chef? Because
totally.
And I feel like they're selling it with a passion. Yeah. They're not selling it. They're close to it. They might have had something to do with creating that dish. So now like that passion is going to sell so much.
Totally. It's the difference between me telling a server what the name of the rice is in the paella, and one of these chefs telling them why this rice named this is used in paella, because it's a short grain rice, because it takes a little longer to cook, and that's why the socarrat develops on the bottom. It's like, it's a little like chef knowledge of the ingredient versus a server memorizing what it is and the name of it.
Yeah, they don't just memorize it; they know it.
They know it. They know why it's that and not something else.
Yeah,
too.
so it's like educational.
It's educational.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fun moments for the guest, I think, in this experience. The other thing I like about this change of the system, it doesn't change the model. Like, people were weirded out about the Danny Meyer not being able to tip thing.
Yeah,
like they were like unused to it. Then also his menu read more expensive than every other restaurant comparatively when you just look menu to menu. And that's a very unfair advantage to him. This industry wouldn't exist without tips. Tips like the heroin of our industry.
Right.
Like we wouldn't be able to pay for all the hands needed to do this for a living if not for the tip. So it's
the money's still coming from the same place, which is the irony.
It's just the irony, but people on the surface are not that emotionally intelligent to realize, oh, well, if you take away the tip, that's what it would end up being anyway, right? But they're just doing a base value comparison, or they might not even know that they're not tipping at the end of the meal too. A lot of people wouldn't know. So there's I wanted to make the guest experience exactly the same as it would be any other restaurant. Walking through the door, we're just rotating the staff. Other than the fact that they might be more knowledgeable about the food, or the service will eventually be superfluous, and that's why they know that there's something different about what's going on. That's what my intention, my hope is. Otherwise, they would just be dining at a restaurant not knowing that we're trying to change the system. That's what I wanted for.
Are you worried about consistency?
I think that's what my job is, right? So I'm always worried about consistency. Yeah. I go to sleep worrying about consistency. That's the number one thing a restaurant has to be really good at. But that's always my worry in every restaurant. That's the hardest part of our job. So yes, it is a worry, but that's my job to fix that and to train better and to teach better and to make sure. But that's the hardest part about our industry.
Are there any other challenges you've already faced? I think you opened the 26th of April. Today is the 12th. It's not even a month. You're 3 weeks.
3 weeks in. This is the third. It's the third switch. It's the third switch.
So what's happened that you didn't anticipate happening?
No,
both good and bad.
I think mostly good things are happening, right? The hardest part was for me feeling like Groundhog Day, like when the first switch happened. Some of the mistakes that I had already corrected or seen improvement on in 1 week were being made again, and I felt like I was going crazy. But then I just realized that this is the other team's first week in the kitchen and on the floor, right? So it's week 1 again, even though it's week 2. And
like, come on,
it was melting. It's melting my brain a little bit to come to terms with that. That was like an issue for me personally. But once I realized I have to have a little bit more graciousness, because it's a whole different restaurant now. Like it's week 1 all over again, and that's coming to terms with that for me after having lived 1 week, week 1.
So the learning curve is going to be a little more gradual.
Exactly, that's the biggest drawback. Yeah, because the whole thing.
It takes time to develop habits. So you spend a week developing habit, and then you pull yourself off, and you have to develop a whole new set of habits, and a whole new set of skills, right? And then, I'm starting to get this pull off.
Well, I'm hoping it's not a whole. I'm hoping that there's some things that some are already good at. Yeah. But it's the continuity, right?
It's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen.
It's slower. That's literally the hardest.
Yeah.
That is the biggest drawback is that where it would take for me. I think sometimes for some of these openings that I've had now in the past 3 years, like I've done 4 restaurant openings, something stupid like that, and I think the progress usually happens in month 2. Here it might happen month 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like there's that tipping point where you finally get into those like real grooves and rhythms, and that's going to take a little longer here. Yeah, for sure.
What is the team saying? What's the feedback been?
So far, we're still in the honeymoon phase, I'm guessing, because everyone's still really excited, still really jazzed. I think the biggest thrill was seeing some people open their paycheck.
That's what I was just going to ask.
That was that moment for me.
Like when
that was so cool. Some of them were like jaw dropped.
We're not going to say what they make, but I'm sure it was considerable.
Yeah, considerable. Like look, they're on pace to make about $85,000 a year.
That's awesome.
Over the first, if this continues on this way, and we're open at 60% capacity. We haven't opened up the books fully. I will say, like, friends and family, like, we're very generous people. Like,
sorry.
That's Neely.
Oh. Neely just was on the other side of that camera. Right there. Maybe if we're lucky, she'll be on the right side.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so we'll see the benefits, like watching their draw drops and seeing like, oh man, okay, I don't mind going on the floor so much. Because some of them were literally like, oh man, I gotta go on the floor next week, and I'm like, it's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be worth it. And they saw the paycheck and like, yeah, okay, I see what's happening here. Like this
learning
is cool.
And growing too.
Yeah.
That's the other cool thing. People need to grow. It's a part of our human, needs. Like we literally need to grow. So I feel like you're also forcing people to grow, which is get outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, and defining cooking, it's just simply the act of working in a kitchen and like with a pan on the stove is so limiting. And like what we do is more than that. It's hospitality. Like we are under the hospitality umbrella, and it shouldn't stop at the people only working in the front. It should translate to the back. It should translate all the way around.
How cool is it that like last Friday night, guests came. They came in this coming Friday night, and they know the names of everybody.
Yeah,
and it's an open concept too.
Yeah.
So like you can yell over to Johnny on the grill.
I told them, feel free. If we ever get to the point where you have these guests that really enjoy your personality, that you connect with, and these people, even if you're in the kitchen, I will absolutely, when you have a second, walk off the line, give the person a handshake, talk to them, it'll make their night. Like I'm in for this whole thing. I'm in for all the ways that it comes out, all the ways it's going to permeate, and don't let something like you being on the line define you as. There's no barriers there. Like just walk over and say hi. Like do the things that would come naturally to you to do with someone you connect with. Like make these connections. They're gonna happen all over the place, and don't limit yourself to just being on the floor to address them. Fucking you walk off the line and say hi to someone. I would never get mad about that. That's what we're doing here.
Is it crazy to think we've been talking for about an hour and 52 minutes?
Wow, that's a long time.
It goes by fast.
It does.
But this is why I love the show long format, is because so much great stuff came out of today's chat, man, and it's good to slow down and take the time, right? To really listen and to pull back the layers. And you were a great guest, but I don't want to cut you short. Was there anything that has not come out of today's conversation, as far as skill sets, perspectives, or just this idea of inspire, empower, and transform the industry? What else needs to change, if anything?
No, I mean, like what I really just care about is the health of the industry going forward, and honing in and creating an industry that represents all the people that are contributing more evenly. And because, like, again, the experience that we create in the restaurant goes far beyond the person greeting you and talking to you and touching your table. It's the people in the back. It's the cooks. It's everyone, barbacks, food runners. Everyone's contributing to success and special moments, right? And to limit who is receiving that tip, and to limit not the make reward. That as far reaching as it should be, that's what was wrong. And we're trying to just create a more equitable system, and that's really the most powerful thing that I can say. And I think that chefs deserve this.
Yes.
We deserve this. Like, don't think less of yourself. Don't think that you're not capable. Like, you deserve to make a living wage. You deserve to like what you do. And I bet you, if you just think outside your box just a little bit, you're going to love what comes out of pushing those muscles that you're not used to being guest facing and creating a better model for the whole industry.
Chef David, man, I've loved this conversation.
Yeah,
thank you so much. We're going to take one more quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to bust out a speed round.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back. And the first question I have for you, actually, before we ask the first question, I do want to give a nod to that episode. If you're looking to learn more about this front of house, back of house swap model, Jock O'Sullivan, episode 371, was the first time we discussed this on the show. And the restaurant, at the time it was the Big Bean, but he's now associated with the Oak House. And it's the Oak House that's doing this that I know of. So if you guys are interested, and it's a new market, New Hampshire, if anybody wants to do some research, or if you want to,
That's really cool. Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah. All right. Speed round time. The first question I have for you is, what is your it factor? A habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success?
Surrounding myself, identifying good people.
What is your biggest weakness?
Pride.
What is one question you ask or thing you look for when you are growing your team?
I want to find your passion. And if you're capable of passion, then I'm capable of stoking something.
How do you go about finding that passion?
My job as an interviewer is to get you to talk and reveal something about yourself. And if I can find something that you're interested in or passionate about, then I know that you're capable of passion, and that's something that I can identify with. If you're giving me one-word answers, if you're vanilla, if you don't know why you're sitting across from me, if you don't know anything about what I'm doing, you're not gonna get the job.
What is your biggest challenge today?
I got my hands full with this opening.
I'd imagine. How are you overcoming it?
Again, leaning on the people that you've surrounded yourself with. I need a lot of help. Nobody does it alone.
What is one code of conduct or behavior, core value you teach your team?
Be selfless. Help the guy next to you.
What is one uncommon standard of service, a way you go above and beyond guest expectation?
I think my attempt is to go above and beyond the guest expectation, and is to a gift and a surprise gift. Like I said before, when I would hear someone debating about one or two options, a bite of the other option that they didn't choose is always like a fun surprise, wow factor kind of thing.
What is one book that's a must read to make us a better person or a restaurant owner?
The Wogadera's book, Unreasonable Hospitality, is obsessive. I'm obsessed with.
So I listened to that book on my way down to Atlanta a few months ago, and it was absolutely a great book.
Yeah.
I recommend it to anybody as well. And I do want to mention, if you guys head over to restaurantunstoppable.com/997, we have a link to that book. If you have not picked it up in audio yet,
wow,
you will
cool.
Support the podcast. Thank you.
All right, I got you.
What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
Listen to their teammates, listen to their staff. I think sometimes people can be too set in their ways, and I think there's always have to, no matter how much you think you know what you're doing, listening to your team members and the people you surround yourself with is important.
Literally just had somebody on the show a couple weeks ago. What is it costing you not to listen? Christine Miles, the author. I don't know if you're aware of her, but that book is awesome.
Okay, Christine Miles.
It's on audio too. It's a great listen. Or you can just go check out the episode. It's like 993 or something like that. All right. We're almost at the end. What is one technology you've recently adopted that's had a huge impact on communication, efficiency, profitability, anything along those lines?
That's rough. I'm a very, very old school kind of guy. Google Calendars is like a revelation to me.
It's called a Google Suite.
Yeah. But no, I don't really. I'm so not technically savvy, man.
If Nelly was sitting here right now, what would she geek out over?
I don't know if I've ever seen Nelly without her Neely without her Apple.
Have I been calling her Nelly this whole time? And it's Neely?
It's Neely. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm horrible. I'm so sorry.
If I haven't corrected you, it's my fault, honestly. Yeah, she's never without her laptop. She's like surgically glued to her hand. She's always working.
Maybe we'll defer to her after recording. And this is the last question. Get ready for it. It's a big one. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Oof. 3 pieces of wisdom to leave behind. Be fearless, make lots of mistakes, and learn from them.
Be fearless, make lots of mistakes, and learn from them. This has been a lot of fun, Chef. Thank you so much. We call out, at the end of every show, we call out a future guest. That's how we wrap it up. So who do you respect and admire? Somebody that if you found out was a guest on this podcast, you would absolutely be tuning into.
I love James Kent.
James Kent.
He's a chef at Crown Shy, and he's a big deal. He's pretty awesome, and I love where he came from and how hip hop he is with everything he does.
Is he based around here?
Crown. He's a New York chef. He's pretty big deal.
Neely, I have a question for you.
She's documenting this as well, apparently.
What is one piece?
Yeah.
What is one piece of technology that you've recently adopted that's had a huge impact on profitability, efficiency, communication, anything along those lines?
Technology?
Yes.
This might be a boring answer, but it's probably the usual suspects. There's a reason why companies like Toast and Resi are public and really good at what they do. I would say, but as far as like
Toast and Resi specifically are both really, really awesome.
So there's a lot of reservation options out there. What is it that Resi is doing differently?
well, we just transitioned to Resi in April at the St. Laurent, and then we opened with Resi here, and we just started Resi yesterday at Heirloom Restaurant. So, I mean, ultimately, it's like the better version of Open Table. So it has all of the back end as far as how intuitive it is, and then I think just the auto wait lists and being able to grab people on their phone and capture those moments when tables become available was a missed opportunity on Talk that we weren't able to do. Yeah. And their software is just not as good.
Got it.
So,
awesome.
I mean, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Both have good interfaces.
You're
asking me a boring question, man. No, I'm just kidding.
He asked me about technology. I'm like, I am not. I am so.
That's
hilarious.
In my experience, all chefs send one email in their sent box a month. That's David's.
Oh, man. That's funny stuff. Well, this has been a lot of fun. That was literally the last thing we're going to discuss. Actually, the one thing we have not done, if we've been inspired by your story, interested in your knowledge and what you're doing here, maybe we want to replicate this model across the country to spread this equity further than Jersey.
Yeah.
You know, what's the best way to get in touch and to maybe we want to come work for you?
Yeah, you can find me on our my social media handle. I'm on Instagram specifically. It's Chef Dave Viana. And then, I reach out to Heirloom Kitchen via email. Email us, and Neely will direct you to me, and we'll be in touch that way, too. You can email the restaurant, and Neely will get it to me. If you email me directly, you won't. You'll not. But if Neely sends me something, I will respond. But yeah, this
has been a lot of fun. And we're over our time officially by 8 minutes, so I want to wrap this up to respect your time. And
thank you so much.
Now this is where I say thank you so much, my friend. There is no questioning. Both Chef Dave and Neely, you guys are unstoppable.